that, therefore to be able to cope well.
What types of support did you have?
At that time, I think home care started to come in, and they started to bathe her and dress her and clean some of the house to help me.
Okay.
Some of the other supports we had was we had the doctor on board, and she understood where things were at. We then, for myself, I live in Golden, and I joined a support group for dementia. And through that, meeting with the group, reading all sorts of different books, and hearing other people's experiences was a great support. For Dad, you actually went to support groups too.
One or two, yeah. I didn't have much time to be going to support group because I couldn't leave her at night at that time, just for safety's sake. And she didn't wander, but she wasn't responsible. She was starting to get that way.
Okay. How did Doreen seem to cope with having dementia?
I don't believe that she really did cope well or understand, because she always felt that any problem was our problem, and that she didn't have any problems. And I don't think she really realized what was happening to her, and therefore she was not coping either.
How did that affect you and your family?
Well, it made you very cautious of what was happening, and careful. You tried not to do anything to disrupt her way of doing things. But the driving was one of the scary things, where she used to know exactly where to go and was a good driver. She got to the point where she'd be lost at the same intersection as she drove through hundreds of times. Would be.
Were you her primary caregiver throughout her whole illness?
I guess you would say I was, in the fact of relative type
Right.
thing, but due to the fact that she went into a nursing home, there was other people helping me to look after her.
And
But- But that was only in the last three and a half years.
Yes.
That up until that time, Dad had looked after Mom pretty well completely on his own. He was the major caregiver.
How did you make the decision to move her there?
The decision to move her there was made by the home care nurse and the doctors. They moved her into the, I don't know what ward they called it, at the Rocky View for tests, and then said no, she could not come home. And so they found Bethany Care as the location for her. They offered to have me bring her to the Cedar Villa over here, but I felt she was settled in, starting to settle in down there. We weren't going to change her again.
Was it harder or easier to have her in a care home? Was it harder or easier to have her in a care home?
I think it was easier to have her in a care home, but you felt guilty, and so therefore you tried to go too often, which you couldn't, and then you learned that you were going to be the one in there if you didn't slow down. And so I'd say yes, it was definitely a help to get her into nursing home.
It was definitely, she was looked after well there and safely, and she was not a wanderer, but there was always that potential that she could have become. And there was many things like stairs and so on at home that she was no longer able to cope with, and she no longer had to worry. We no longer had to worry about those things for her.
If she got up in the middle of the night here, I had to get up too, because she could have fallen down the stairway. And so I took her to the bathroom and looked after her and brought her back, tucked her in bed, and spent the whole night there, hoping that she wouldn't wake up and sneak out on me.
Yeah. So anyway, the Bethany definitely did help in many, many aspects, in so much as caregiver could get some rest too, and you knew that she was safe.
How long did she struggle with this illness?
From the time she was probably, the first signs of it were probably when she was about 65 years old. She struggled from then until her passing when she was about 81 and a half.
Oh, sorry. Just 1 second. Was she in the care home for the majority of that time?
She was in a care home for the last 3.5 years of her life. The rest of the time she was home here with me, which was around 13, 14 years.
Would you have done anything differently for her care if you had to do it again?
No, I most likely would have had more experience and would have been, you think of things different then, but I think under the normal circumstances that would have been the best care we could handle at the time.
Does dementia run in your family?
It did run in my mom's family, and so much as 3 other siblings also had dementia.
Do you have any ideas or suggestions for anyone who is working with or who has a loved one who has dementia?
My suggestion would be for them to educate themselves. It is so powerful if you can just educate yourself in how you treat the person who has dementia, and for your own well-being, in so much as you can, once you learn and educate yourself that a person with dementia is no longer able to learn, they're no longer able to follow simple steps that they had followed and done before. Once you learn these things, then you don't expect of the person with dementia. Your expectations for them are lowered. Once you understand that they can no longer learn, the things they once knew are fading away, and it helps in how you deal with the person. And I think it gives you a lot of understanding and forgiveness of the person, knowing that they aren't doing this behavior purposely, or saying things to you to hurt you, or things on that line.
Did you find medication helped her symptoms?
Medication did help for a few years to sort of even things out and maybe slow down the progression. But after that time, she had been on Aricept, and once the medical profession felt that it was no longer working, then she was taken off the Aricept because it was no longer funded.
I just want to thank you guys for doing this interview with us. It really helped us see into the world of dementia and understand it better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.